People always ask how I balance my family life with 400 shows a year. I'm just doing what I love with the people I love. It's my magic life.
I like Wes Iseli. I like everything about him.
All right, guys, we are back, and this week we have a legend in magic. I say that a lot, but this guy I have looked up to. When I did his show in Pennsylvania, I made the announcement every week that I saw his theater being built in Magic magazines. I followed his career. He had releases. I've known him from DVDs and all of his different products. Everybody, it's Danny Archer. What's up, buddy? How are you?
Hey, go Phillies. That's it. I'm taking it off. All right. I got my plug in.
So,
I'm good. How are you?
We don't watch baseball. I only know Magic, man. What are the Phillies doing this year? Are they doing good?
Phillies are leading the league. They are the number one team in the league, I believe. And I'm not a big baseball fan myself, but the team was playing so good that even I started watching.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm watching a little bit earlier than normal.
Well, before we get into Magic and everything, I know you're, unlike me, you are a sports fan, and we talked about golf a little bit. What happened to that golfer and that whole controversy about the lady getting ready to give birth and him doing good and all of that? Oh, right. How did that go?
There's just so many controversy with golf. You could just talk we could do a golf podcast.
Okay.
But I got my golf clothes on right now. I got my golf outfit on. Although I did not play today. It's almost 100 degrees here. My God, too hot.
So if you hear the air, he said the air conditioner's on in the studio there where he's at, and that's maybe what we hear if we hear a little air. Just bear with it, guys. It is 100 degrees today. Yeah. Natalie's got me Arctic bundled up because she's got the AC pump in here as well. But yeah, so for me, it's just so weird. I am so in love with Magic, Danny, that I don't have time for anything else. I can't keep up with modern movies, with television shows. We try to watch anything. Name a show. I start it and I can't finish it. I'm so focused. I don't have enough time in the day to watch Magic lectures and read Magic magazines and read books. I want to know everything. But I'm watching Danny in the background though. He introduces to the audience and does his little thing. He goes back behind the booth and he's working on his butt.
Oh, nice. That's funny. I missed that.
Yeah, he was working on a swing. I saw it.
Great.
It might have been between shows. That might have been when it was.
Possibly. I would not put it by me.
That's awesome. So, Danny, this is listened to by, we have the Patreon people in the background. She did see people logged on to Patreon in the background. This goes live Wednesday at 3 p.m. We have non-magicians listening from all over the world. I want everybody to know everything about you. This is all about you today. So, how did you get started in magic? What was your start?
Well, my story was a little different than most people. You ask the average magician when you got started in magic, sometime between 8 and 12, they got started in magic. So for me, what happened, I'll make a long story short. I'm 16 years old. I'm watching the Johnny Carson show, and Johnny's wrapping up the show, and he said, "Oh, stay tuned. Tom Snyder with the Tomorrow Show is on next, and he has this guy and Di Vernon Magician." So I said, and I listened, and I used to stay up late when I was a kid. I'm 16 at the time. So I stayed up, and I'm watching the Tom Snyder show, and Di Vernon comes on. I don't know who this guy is. And I had seen magic before it was okay. And then Vernon does the cups and balls. And I'm like, oh, my God, that was incredible. The next day, I get the phone book out. This is pre-internet. And I look in the phone book, and I see there's a magic shop in a mall 2 miles from where I live. So I get all the money I have, $38. I drive to the magic shop. So I walk in, and back then it was an old school magic shop. There's ventriloquist dummies, juggling stuff, all the colorful props. And it can be intimidating to a regular person going into a magic shop for the first time. So I'm a little bit, whatever. And there's a big, enormous, I'm not going to say the name of the owner of the shop, but he was a very enormous man behind the counter smoking a cigar. So he says, "Hey, can I help you?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Last night on TV, there was Vernon was on Tom Snyder." I said, "Yeah." I said, "And he did this trick with 3 cups and balls." I said, "Yeah." I said, "Do you have that trick?" He says, "Yes." And I have brought my entire life savings of $38. It's burning a hole in my pocket. I'm afraid to ask almost how much it is. It could be thousands. Look what it did. I said, "Do you have that trick?" "How much is it?" $6. said, I can afford that. So I said to him, for $6, I'll be able to do the trick like the guy did on TV. And he took a puff of his cigar, blew smoke in my face, and said, yeah, kid, with about 40 years practice. And I think to myself, I'm 16. By the time I'm 56, I don't care. It's $6. I want to know. I give him the money, and I get a set of not Royal, the cheapo aluminum cups. I get out to the car. I open it up. There's no fruit. There's no lemons. There's no talk about lemons in there. It's 4 little balls in the cups. And what? This is it, the instructions? So he was such a non-helpful guy that I didn't go back. Now what I don't realize, and because back then I don't have the Philadelphia phone book, I live in New Jersey. I don't know that there's 5 magic shops just in Philadelphia. Jack Shannon has a shop, and this guy I don't know that at the time, and I don't realize that. All I know is this is the only magic shop in the world that I know of, and I'm afraid to go back and talk to that guy. So I play with the cups and balls for like 2 weeks, and in those 2 weeks, I invent what I think are inventions, and really I recreated different ways to steal. I figured out how to do the loads. I could do as close a job to the Vernon routine as I can. But then after a couple of weeks, no one else I know thinks this is neat. It's a weird thing. It goes aside, and I forget about magic. So now, like, you know, the old show, the leaves are coming off the calendar. Many leaves go by. It's now, how old am I? I think I'm about 28, 29. I'm working in a tuxedo rental place in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Customer comes in. He says he's going to buy 4 tuxedos. I'm thinking big commission. And I say, why does one guy need 4 tuxedos? He tells me he's a magician. He's going to perform on a cruise ship that's going around the world. He wants different outfits for the different days and performances. And he also needed to get extra material that matched the fabric of the suit. Now I have an idea what he used it for. Back then, I'm like, I have no idea. And I tell him the story about when I was 16 about Vernon. And I said, I never met a magician close, like, could you do a trick for me? And he takes a coin out and he does a quick coin routine for me. And I think, oh my God. And I say to him, you know, I thought it was pretty neat. How can I learn, you know, to do magic now? And he says to me, today's Wednesday. I said, yeah. He says, tomorrow's Thursday. I said, yeah. He says, tomorrow is the meeting of the Society of American Magicians in Fort Lauderdale. If you want, I will take you as my guest. Now, I'm looking at the guy, and I'm thinking, maybe the guy's hitting more. I'm not sure. But I think I could take this guy if it comes to it. So I agree to meet the guy after work. So after work, we go to the Magic Club. And Fort Lauderdale Club at that time, Sam Schwartz was a member. There was a lot of the old New York guys the snowbirds that were down in Florida. So there were some really good magicians in that club, but I don't know anything. So at one point they asked me to leave the room. And I think this is it. They are now discussing how to make things float and fly. They're doing their business meeting. That they didn't want me to hear. The most boring part of the whole thing. The business meeting's over. We come back in. It was Sam Schwartz, in fact, that did a little one-man little mini lecture, and he taught some tricks. And then what happened, then the meeting ended, and a guy came up to me and says, hey, do you know Twisting the Aces? I say, no. And he would do it for me. And I said, oh, my God. And then the next guy would come up to me and says, do you know this trick? I didn't know any trick. So, but what I realized later was these guys have known each other for many years. They've seen Twisting the Aces. They've seen oil. They've seen each other material. All of a sudden, I'm new blood. I know nothing. One of the guys at the meeting works at the local magic shop. It was Paul Diamond's magic shop. He gives me his card. The magic shop is like 2 miles from where I work. I get done work at 5 o'clock, 5:08. I'm at the magic shop. And I'm going crazy. I want this, I want that, I want everything. But the guy, Dave was his name, he was really a good guy because he could have sold me anything in the shop. You don't want all that stuff. He says, here, you want this and this. And all he would let me buy was Bobo's Coin Magic and Royal Road to Card Magic. So he started me with a book. And that's where I started. So that's how I got started in magic. And then it was just a hobby for a while. Then I moved to Philadelphia. And as soon as I moved to Philadelphia, I went down to the local magic shop. And that's when I met Marty, who's my business partner here in the Smoke and Mirrors Magic Theater. And Marty worked at one of the local magic shops. There were a couple in town. And Marty and I became friends. And at one point we talked about, the magic shop, they should have this. They should do it this way. And we said, why don't we open up a magic shop? So we decided to do that. And then we had to go out and raise the capital. And I couldn't come up with my end of the money. Marty did. So I said, you got to find another partner. So he found Larry Taylor. And Larry and Marty opened up Philadelphia Magic Company. A couple of years later, Larry wanted out. He moved to Florida. Marty still wanted a partner, so I had money at that point. I bought in, and Marty and I ran the business for several years. And then I moved to Colorado. And I took a regular job selling computers. I'm working in the regular world. Magic is still a hobby of mine, an interest of mine. And then the key thing happens. I have my first heart attack. I am now 39 years old. I have a girlfriend. We have one daughter. She is 6 months pregnant with what will be our second daughter. But I don't notice at the time because we had home delivery, so we don't know it's a girl. We just know she's pregnant. So she comes to visit me in the hospital. So what happened was the doctor comes in and she says a lot of stuff. But all I remember, she said, congratulations, Danny. She goes, you survived your first heart attack. She goes, 1/3 of the people don't. And after she left, all I could think was, my God, I am alive. 1/3 of the people don't. I have already beaten the odds. So I'm thinking about my life and I'm thinking I'm not happy with the computer business. When was I happy? The magic business. Now, I never felt that I really applied myself. I was a young single guy. I thought, what if I applied myself? Could I do a little better? So my girlfriend comes in with our Nikki, our oldest, and she has, she's 6 months pregnant. Danny, how you feeling? I said, forget that. And I tell her what the doctor said about dying. And I said, I'm thinking I might want to go back and try to become a magician. And I give Rayetta all the credit because what she said was, if that's what you want to do, how can I help? How can we help you get your dream? Most women would have said, are you crazy? I have a baby. I'm 6 months pregnant. We need insurance. We need this and that. Yes, dear. And she said that, I probably would keep working in the insurance business or the computer business. I'm sorry. But she didn't. She says, what can I do to help you? So this happened in January, the heart attack. She's due in April. And I can't quit my job because I might need medical benefits. We didn't. We had the baby right at home with a midwife, which was our plan, but so we didn't need medical benefits. So my daughter, Sandra, was born on April the 25th. The very next day, I went into work and quit. And my boss said to me, didn't you have a takeoff yesterday? You were having a baby? I said, here's a picture. We had a little girl. He says, and you're quitting today. Do you have another job? No. He says, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to become a professional magician. And he said, good luck with that. And that's how I got started.
Did you give him a card to get a Christmas party?
No, I didn't have a card then.
Wow.
But what I did, I realized quitting my job is going to be really difficult to get started from nowhere. No one knows me. I don't even have a show. How can I make money in the meantime? And I had two ideas. One, maybe I could put a trick on the market. I would get the magazines just like everybody else. And this is pre-internet. But you would get the magazines and I see the ads and I order tricks like or go to the local magic shop. And the first trick I put out was called Eye Exam. And Eye Exam went on to be Eye Exam still sells well today, unbelievably. So the first trick I had was a good success right out of the box. And the other idea I had was, I thought to myself, I'm reading books about, achieving wealth and your goals and stuff like that. And the guy says, find something that's no one doing, and maybe you can start a business in an area where no one's working. So I look around and I realized the lecture business, back then, if you wanted to do a lecture to him, it was really hard to do because the guy that was the head of the club, he would retire. It's another guy, clubs change, and to get the information, there were one or two people that might set up like a 3-city tour, but no one was doing it on a big basis. Oh, wait, let's back up the story. That came later. What happened was I thought to myself, I had the idea. This was the original idea. I thought, what if you wanted to get Daryl's lecture notes? Because you heard there was a good trick in there. You couldn't. The only way you could get Daryl's lecture notes was if you went to a convention or lecture where Daryl was and you got them from him. So I have this idea. I'm going to put together the big book of lecture notes. So I call up all these magicians, many of which I don't know, from Amar to Zimmerman. And I tell them my idea. You're going to send me your notes on consignment. I'm not buying them. I will then advertise in the linking ring and let people know I have this lecture notes, and then they can buy your stuff. I'll send you a check. And most of the guys, I had like 50 guys agree to do it. They all send me their stuff. I put an ad in the linking ring, waiting for the orders to come in, and a couple orders did come in. But what I realized was, for the average person, the purchase of the lecture notes was more about the fact I saw Michael Lamar's lecture. It's like when you go to the ballpark, you might get the program at the game because you're at the game. No one drives up to the stadium, runs in, buys the program, and leaves. There were, though, some people that truly, like me, I would buy lecture notes if I could because there was no other way to get the information back then. So I had a couple of guys that would buy because they wanted the information. So now I realize this great idea about the lectures is going to go down in flames. It's not going to be successful. But I say to myself, I'm in touch with these 50 guys. What else can I offer them? And then I think, no one is booking lectures on a national basis. I said, let me try that. So I tell the guys, I send out a letter or I call some of the people that I'm going to be booking tours. And Daryl was one of the early ones, and John Allen from England were two of the early guys that I arranged tour from them. And it worked and went well. And all of a sudden, it was called the Magicians Lecture Network, and I would arrange the tours. So a guy could call me up. I'm open from here to here. I'm going to be in this part of the country. I would set his tour up, and I would take a commission for the tour. And so sometimes opportunity is right there, but you just have to, you think it's this way, but maybe if you looked at it that way, it looks totally different. So the Magicians Lecture Network didn't work selling lecture notes, but it did work booking lectures. So that's how I sort of got started.
But quitting your job was so important. It's so scary, and so many
stupid.
So many magicians don't do it though. But it lit a fire. You had to succeed. That's what's so important. You had to succeed. You had nothing to fall back on.
Exactly. It's like they used to say with the explorers. They would get to the new land and then burn the ship. There's no going back. You can't go back. I could only go forward. And then the lecture business then led to me lecturing. Because what happened was, now again, you got to remember, this is pre-internet. So if I'm now later, when the internet started, I then had the list. I would be able to send out an email. Here's a video of the guy. Here's a picture. It was so much easier. But back then, I'm making phone calls. I'm faxing. Faxes. Kids, a fax machine was something we would put paper in and it would come. I'm faxing stuff. And it was really a lot of work. So I remember one day I come up, I had an office in the basement. I was down there like 9 or 10 hours and I'm exhausted. And we're having dinner and we were married now at this time. We got married and she said, oh my God, or maybe we didn't we got married after the daughter was born. She said, oh, how did it go? And I said, something interesting happened today. She goes, what? 2 different groups said to me, Danny, when are you coming with your lecture? We'd like to have you. And I thought, Sydney. Interesting. And I now realized, I said, if I put together a lecture, I think people would book the lecture. But I said, if the lecture's bad, that's not going to be good for the... So I thought really long and hard, do I want to try this? And finally I said yes. So I had the way it happened for me, most guys assemble material and then they decide to lecture on the material. I did it the other way. I said, what kind of material do I want to lecture on? So I reverse engineered it, basically. I went the other way. So I thought to myself, when I was thinking about this, I said, who's the lecturer that I like to see the most? There was one guy that came to mind, Aldo Colombini. Aldo was a nice guy, funny guy. Aldo had really good, usable, commercial magic, and none of it was that difficult, because sometimes you see a lecture and the guy says, oh, it's a great trick. You got to take a weight and put a fishing line down there and hook it to your... No, I'm not doing that. Aldo had really good stuff. So on my first lecture, I said, okay, that was my goal. So I tried to put up, and the other thing was, sometimes you see a lecture. I just went to a lecture recently. It was all card stuff. I don't like a lecture that's all one thing. I went because I'm interested. I wanted to see what this person had, but I like a little variety. So my lecture had cards, it had coins, it had self-working, sleight of hand, close-up, stand-up, and mentalism. So it had literally something that hopefully everyone will be able to find something.
My first lecture I ever went to was Rocco Solano, and I didn't know how lectures worked, right? So he's doing his thing, his sleeping thing, but he also says, what do you want to know? What else do you want to know? And they say, how about a newspaper tear? And he goes and does 20 minutes of newspaper tear. What else do you want to know? Then he does coin magic. I didn't know that he had a set list. I thought he knew everything and people were just spitting stuff out. I thought it was amazing. I was like 18 years old. I was like, wow, never forget it, man. But that variety is super important because some people don't use cards or they can't use cards, you know? And when we do a lecture, I try to make it a little bit of everything as well. Yeah. So with your Vernon experience, you didn't have it on VHS or anything.
Wait, say it again. You broke up at the beginning.
Your Vernon experience, you didn't have that on VHS or anything. You just remembered it all.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And to take that memory of that one time seeing Cups and Balls with Vernon.
Well, I mean, I don't think I recreated the routine exactly, but I remember there were nothing. The balls appeared. They're there. The 2 to the 1. The fruit was the hardest thing. I said, there can only be one way to do it. You know, when he's putting them in his pocket, he's getting them out. And, you know, I reverse engineered it as much as I could. And it's funny, I haven't performed the Cups and Balls in years, but I am going to put it back in for the family show because it is just such... Will Fern did it here the other night at the theater, and I remember thinking, it's just such a great classic of magic that I'm going to dust it back up and get it up to performance speed again.
That's one I've never done. I've never done it in a show. I don't... It's just something about it. I don't know if I would use it in like a place like your venue would be perfect, but then if I'm on stage, I don't know if they can see it, and then if I'm in a living room, I feel like I don't know. It's one of those things. Never played with it. Not cups,
Yeah.
but not Cups and Balls. And it's the same thing, you know, same size. I don't know. I asked you about how you got started, and everybody's like, oh, I didn't get started the same way everybody else did with that magic kit.
Yeah, he definitely did not get started.
But 90% of the people we ask, I get a lot of stuff in the comments. You ask the same question. They're all different. They're all unique.
Yeah.
And only 10% of people started with that magic kit, man. Everybody else had that crazy experience. So, I don't know. How did you end up in Colorado doing this stuff? That was during the lecture? You were doing the restaurant thing in Colorado.
Yeah, so the restaurant gig started, the lecture business started to change a little bit, and I knew something else was going to be needed. So just one day I get a phone call. Hello? Hi, my name's Brian. I own a restaurant up in Vale, and we're opening... No, I own a restaurant in Beaver Creek. Most people know Vale in Colorado. It's the big ski resort. Beaver Creek is the next mountain up. Beaver Creek makes Vale look like the wrong side of the tracks. Beaver Creek is really expensive, super expensive. So he had a restaurant in Beaver Creek. He's now going to open up a restaurant in Vale. He's got a magician working the Beaver Creek. He's looking for a new magician. Somebody in Chicago gave him my name. Am I interested? Do I want to come up and talk to him about the job? So... yes, I do. So I drive up. He says, oh, bring your wife and family. I want to meet everyone. And I bring the whole thing. He asked me to perform. There was a table. I said, there's people right there. And I went up and I performed for the table. And thanks a lot. And I went back home. Didn't hear anything for like a week or so. Then a buddy of mine calls me up. Hey, Danny, a friend of mine from New York. He said, are you going to be in town? I'm coming to Denver. Maybe we'll get together for lunch. I said, what are you coming in for? He said, there's a guy looking for a restaurant magician. It's the same gig. And I tell him, he says, that's all right, apply. So the one thing I remember, though, when I'm talking to the owner, so now I perform, we're just talking, just me and him, and he's telling me about the gig. Here's what you get paid. Here's the deal. You have to live there because the gig is 6 nights a week. And it's such a remote location, especially in the wintertime. You can't, even if it's a half hour away, you can't be, because you don't know if you can make it because of the wind and the weather. And he says to me, and as part of the perks, you get a ski pass. Are you a skier? I said, I'm not. And I said, you don't want to hire anyone that skis. He said, why not? I said, a skier's going to fall, break an arm, break a leg. You're not going to have entertainment. And he said to me, oh, you're a smart guy. I don't think that that's why I got the job, but I do think that had something to do with it. For some reason, I always do. So anyway, I get the call. They want me to be the guy. So they had one of the problems that they have up there, and there's several places like this, like really expensive resorts. Where do the regular people, the cooks, the chefs, the waiters, where do they all live? And so they had this building that was for people that were not, the visitors, and I was able to get an apartment in there, which was, again, really expensive. And I start working, and oh my God, it was just an unbelievable gig. It was 3 hours, but this was not, oh, this is 3 hours. You are working and grinding, because it was known for having magic. So there were so many families that came in, and you were just working from the second you started till the second you were done. But what great training in what works, what doesn't work. And, if you would take a trick on Monday, a brand new trick by Friday, I've done it 100 times. It was unbelievable for repetition, for learning. That's just like Mike Close said. He decided to learn the memorized deck when he was working at Illusions. He got that gig. I decided the same thing. Now's the perfect chance to put in work with the memorized deck. And I don't want to say I mastered the memorized deck, because I don't know if you can master anything, but I had it down by the end of that. Now, this gig lasted about 8.5 to 9 years.
Wow.
And the other blessing is tourists, so you can repeat magic.
Oh, that's right. That was the other great thing, right, is these were 98%, because it was an expensive place. Locals, only the very wealthy locals could even afford to go there. Like dinner for two would be maybe $150 for two people. And this is, now 20 years ago or something like that. So it's a really expensive place. But yeah, it was tourists. So you could do the same show, and if they come in, you do one new trick. They were happy with one new trick. Although the bunnies, that would be the one you just. I wrote an article one time for Magic Magazine. The guy said, "Here's the question I want you to write about: an alien comes to Earth. One cook is going to make one dish for him. One singer is going to sing one song for him. He gets one of everything. You're going to be the one magician. You get to do one trick. What trick do you do?" And I wrote the article about I would do the multiplying bunnies. And I said, here's my reason why. But the bunnies was the trick that you could just not do the bunnies. If you said I don't have the bunnies, I've seen girls cry. Oh, yeah, you don't want that.
So did you have time to do other things in there too, or that took up all your time?
Oh my God! What do you mean? When I was working?
Yeah, when you were doing the restaurant, were you doing other shows as well, or just?
Well, I would do some private events, but again, the same thing happened. The locals don't have much money. They're the poor people. The rich people, they fly in, but I would do, so I didn't know the locals too much, but I would do some private gigs here and there. But just I was working on other things, working on magic or whatever. But it was in the summertime, I got the golf membership. I would play golf every day and then go in and perform at night. It was there were some things about it that was absolutely great.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if I'm allowed to say it on the air, but I'm going to say it anyway. You told me the tips were pretty amazing.
Yeah.
The tips were, I was not prepared for the tips because, again, I had people, this happened to me so many times. I would walk in the door, a guy comes over to give me a 50, gives me 100. Make sure you come to my table. I'm table number 12 right over there. Before I even started, to make sure, because when on a busy night, you can't get to every table. And they knew that. So they said, here's a little bit. So I would make, because the statute of limitations, I believe, is run out on this with the government. But I would make between $300 and $500 every night, cash.
Nice.
Now, I'm living in Vale, Colorado. Vale is such a small town, there is no traffic light in Vale. There's no traffic light in Vale. So if something's 8 minutes away, it's always 8 minutes away. There's no. It's a small town, so you can't spend that kind of money. So what I would do is when the money got to be $1,000, I would put rubber bands on it and I throw it in my closet. Well, one day I'm looking for a magic prop and I can't find it. Maybe it's in the closet, and I move something and I'm like, oh my God, there was like $38,000
Wow.
in the bottom of my closet. So I then said, I got to put this money in the bank. I got to save it. But it was just the money would just accumulate so much because it was just coming in so fast. Absolutely unbelievable gig. Now, at one point, the original magician, Cayenne, says he's done. He's been up there. He was a single guy and he had trouble. He was looking to meet someone and it was trouble. So that was more important. So he left. So the owner came to me and says, I got to find another guy. Do you have any recommendations? And I recommended Danny Fleshman. And he says, I'm going to talk to him. He says he's going to talk to a couple of guys. I said, let me know before you make your final pick who you go with. And he ended up going with Fleshman, who is still there, still doing the gig today. I talked to Dan maybe 2 months ago. He's back there now. I guess he's been there maybe, my God, because he came probably 2 or 3 years after me. He's still there. He's got to be there 16 years or something like that. They're down to only one restaurant right now. So there used to be two, so we would flop. And then we realized the tips at Beaver Creek way better than if Vale you're making 3, Beaver Creek you're making 5. So the tips at Beaver Creek were way better. But Dan is still doing the gig to this very day.
That was my next 2 questions. Is it still going on? Yep. That's amazing. Wow. So you talked about the eye test. A good friend of mine was an eye surgeon, and he had like 15 of those. He had it in every close-up case. And he carried it around with him all the time, your eye test trick. And when he passed away, I ended up with them. So I have like 15 of them. It's a great trick. Your birthday surprise, your birthday card, help me. I have it, but I have never used it. Tell me about the birthday trick. What is the birthday trick?
Well, the birthday trick, there was a trick by Tan Anasaka called Check It Out. And the effect was you had a bunch of black squares of paper and a bunch of white squares of paper, and you would show them loose and separate. You put a rubber band on them and went like this, and it changed to a checkerboard. Very visual. And I thought, wow, that's really cool. I said, but who cares? It's white checker. And I thought, what else could be done with that? And I had the idea to, what if they were birthday cards? And at the end, it changed to a big thing that says, happy birthday. So it's a complicated thing. I don't think Tan Anasaka's trick is still on the market anymore. And the birthday banner really isn't. I'm performing at Abbott's convention. I think it's like the beginning of next month. So I'm getting some stuff ready. And I actually found I had a couple birthday banners. I didn't think there were any more in existence. But I had to hire a paper engineer to figure out how to fold this thing. And then we had to find the right paper because with the constant folding, because you got to remember, it's like the size of like, this, like the square of like a birthday card, and it changes into a banner that's like 3.5 by square. So with all the folding, we needed paper that wouldn't tear. And people say, oh yeah, you make it on Tyvek. Yeah. Tyvek was too thick, wouldn't work. Then we found this other paper that we had to import from Japan. We had to make a special jig that would come down on the paper and score it so it would fold easily. The other loose cards had to be printed. So we're getting all these parts made, and my wife says to me, Dan, can I tell you something? I go, what? She goes, if this trick doesn't sell, we're going to be living outdoors. I said, don't worry, this trick is going to sell. And again, the birthday banner sold thousands and thousands of tricks.
That's awesome.
So it was a good trick. An eye exam, briefly, was the first trick I put on the market, and that came about by a fluke. I'm doing a close-up gig. There used to be a trick on the market called You Must Have Been Drinking by Jerry Summerdine. And it was one of those tricks, there's a million of them. 4 cards are face up, one at a time, they turn face down, and then the backs change to mirrors, they change to this, the different color back. It was one of those tricks. And his trick, they would all change to beer cards, and the end of the night, oh, maybe you were drinking. So I am performing this trick in my walk-around set. So there's a tap on my shoulder, and the host says, can I talk to you for a minute? I said, yes. He goes, let's go over here. Uh-oh. He goes, listen, she goes, don't feel bad. There's no way you would know this, she said, but we have at least 6 people at the party that are in Alcoholics Anonymous, and you're doing a trick with beer cards, which they are finding offensive. Again, it's not a problem. You didn't know that, but could you just not do that trick? And I said, no problem. Take it out. It's done. I like doing that trick. And on the way home, I'm thinking to myself, that's a really good trick. What could it be other than beer cards? And literally on the way home, I had the idea of eye charts, putting eye charts on the back. And I made, in the very beginning, I made 100, thinking maybe it will sell 100. And that trick has sold, I don't know, in excess of 10,000. I've lost count.
That's awesome.
But again, sometimes it was just, it was like that, your chocolates on my peanut butter was to happen. The right circumstances, I wouldn't have sought down and come up with that on my own, I don't believe, but that's the way it happened.
If it wasn't for those people in Alcoholics Anonymous, you wouldn't have come.
Exactly.
My eye chart friend, my friend that was an eye surgeon, I mean, he always had that with him. Color Monty and eye chart, he always had it with him. He loved it. He loved it. After we performed at your Smoke and Mirrors Theater, which we'll get into in a second because it's a beautiful theater, I came home and I was like, I know I have your lecture somewhere, and I had it in my penguin chart, and I watched your lecture, and the one that stood out to me that I have ideas for was the finding coin trick. The finder. You're a good finder.
Oh, pick a coin.
Yeah, you said that you're an amazing finder is what the
Yes.
matter was.
Yeah.
Have you ever done that with billets?
With
Billets.
bills?
Billets or bills, yeah.
No.
That's my idea. I'll tell you off the air. But I love it. I
Okay.
love the idea of it. You're so clean and it's so free. There's no trick box. There's no trick envelopes. There's nothing, and it's open. I love it. I love it. Yeah.
Thank you.
So tell everybody about Smoke and Mirrors Theater and
Okay.
how the idea for that came about, and that you're with Marty and all that.
So I'm in the theater now. You can see, obviously, it's only me here. Each row, that's the first row, second row, third row, and up under there is the fourth row. So it's built like an amphitheater. Everything curves around. Everything is elevated. The seats were also built so this seat is in between the next 2 seats, and so you never have a head in your way. You never have to do this or do that. You can see perfectly. And here's the reason I know why. Very early on, I'll tell you the story about how we did it, but very early on we booked Jason Ladani, card guy. His whole act, old school. He sits down to spectators and does card tricks. So he pulls up outside. I go out. I never met him before. Hey, I'm Danny. I said, let me help you get your stuff. He opens up his trunk, and I said, what's all this stuff? He says, oh, that's a projector, a screen, a video camera. I says, if they can't see the cards, my act doesn't play. I said, before you take that in, come and look at the theater. He says, no. He says, I need it every gig. I said, I'm telling you, you haven't been here. Just look at the theater. If you need it, I'll help you carry it in. Not a problem. He comes in. He goes, oh, my God. I said, go to the back row. He goes to the back row. I put a card down on the table. He says, 3 of hearts, 9 of spades. You can see the cards. Oh, my God. He left his stuff in the car, and I don't think we've ever. Someone has used a screen to play something pre-show, but no one has ever used a screen for a performance. So here's what happened with the theater. I'm on a lecture tour in Germany. Europe, but it was ending in Germany. And as I'm going around in Germany, they would say to me, have you seen the Nuremberg Magic Theater? No. And they would take me, and there was these little boutique magic theaters, 40 seats, 50 seats. One was 110 seats, different sizes, but there was at least 5 to 7 in different towns in Germany. This was a thing that was happening over there. Magicians had the idea, I will create my own theater. People will come to see, in better conditions. So I go back home. I am still working in Vale at this point, but this is now in the back of my mind. So I finally end the gig in Vale, and I move to California, and I am in business with Gregory Wilson, not Mark Wilson's kid, the close-up Gregory Wilson. And Greg and I are talking about opening the theater. And for one reason or another, it doesn't work out with me and Greg Wilson to continue as business partners. So I said, okay, no problem. So I get in my car and I'm leaving California and I decide it's time for me maybe to go back home in Philadelphia. That's my hometown. So I drive back to Philly. I call up Marty, who I used to own the magic shop with. We get together for lunch. Hey, what are you doing? And I've seen Marty time to time. When I would travel to Europe, I would always stop in Philly and try to see family and some friends. So I've seen him before, and I tell him the story about me being in Germany, me and Greg trying to open a theater, and how it just wasn't right with me and him. And he says, why don't you and I open up a theater? And I said, cool. And it took about 1 year from that conversation till we opened the Smoke and Mirrors Magic Theater.
Wow. You know,
It was
performing there, I know how great the layout is, but I didn't realize that the seats were askew. I didn't realize that level of detail. Yeah. Did you notice that? No. Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah, that's a little detail that I don't think you would really notice. But we have had so many performers that have come through that have said this is probably one of the best rooms they have ever performed in for a similar size audience. I mean, obviously, we have 60 seats, so this is not going to compare to a 600-seat theater. It's not going to compare to a 20-seat theater. But the feeling of the furthest away, like right now, I am sitting on center stage, right where I would be performing, but I'm facing the wrong way. But if you would look at the back seat, right up there, that end seat, it's only 18 feet to where I am right now. So the farthest seat to the performer is about 18 feet. That's not far. You don't need amplification for anyone to see. You don't need voice amplification. There are microphones built into the ceiling there, and then we added the third one right there. And those so the performer doesn't have to wear any kind of microphone, or when everybody loves that, because I do tricks where I need to use some of my pockets, and when I have a battery pack on, if you can avoid wearing that, you want to avoid wearing that. So we talked to a bunch of other people, other performers, before we built it, and we tried to do it as best we could, and we are extremely happy with the way it turned out.
Amazing.
And how long has it been open now?
We opened up in 2017, so it's about end of the 7th year, just starting the 8th year. Now, again, 2 years, 18 months closed with COVID. We did virtual shows, which are horrible in my opinion, but we were not able to do a live in-person show for 18 months. Yeah. And that was not good for business. No matter what your business is, you don't want to have a bit, because we were on, we started with nothing, and then we started, and we were going like that. We felt the future was just absolutely bright. We thought we can't be stopped. Yes, we can be stopped. COVID. So if you run a business, you don't want to be closed because it's not like a hose. If you take a hose that's running at full force and you squeeze that hose, that water will stop. When you let go, in a few seconds, that water will continue to come out at the same rate it was before, but that's not happening with COVID. We closed that hose. When we let go, it trickled out, and then it got a little bit better, but it has not reached, full level.
Yeah.
Well, Danny, we worked 5 different resorts, and I have personally asked all of them, how are you? And they said they're not up to 2019 numbers. Everybody.
Yeah, it's not just us.
Yeah. It's crazy. But you have amazing people come through there. What are some of the highlights of who you've had there? I mean, you've had it's hard.
We've had so many great people. I'll show you real quick, as I can take this around. This is the wall. So that's the background, but behind the wall, these are the autographs or mementos of all the people that have played at the theater. So the wall goes all the way over and it bends around. I like this. He drew, Rubialis drew a little image of himself and guys did different things. So we've had so many incredible acts. We've had...
we were above that dude. You missed us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we had the Wes Iseli and Family Show. We've had Jeff McBride was great. We have two theaters. We have a second theater behind that picture on the back wall. If you had X-ray vision like Superman and could look through that ball, we have a second 60-seat theater back there. It's not a theater like this built with the raised stage lights. It's more of a traditional black box theater. Well, that's the room that we rent out, and you can do a private event, food, whatever you want. We'll do BYOB there. But when Jeff was here, Jeff wanted the bigger stage, so Jeff did his show back there because he does the bouncing of the cards and stuff like that. And after he was done, my partner said, "What do you think?" I said, "No. This room is built just for watching magic. You can see perfectly." I said, "I sat in the back. I was doing this all night trying this. I couldn't see." No. So that was, I think, the first and only. We've done comedy events, other, music events or things like that. But if you're doing magic now, we want you to do it here in the main theater. So it's really hard to pick who the best was. I can tell you who the worst was.
Uh-oh. Are you allowed to?
I don't care.
All right. This is a little down low. Let's go.
The worst performer we had at the theater, Kreskin.
Wow.
Younger people might not know the name Kreskin. Kreskin had his own TV show for several seasons. He was a mentalist. Yeah, there it is, right? There it is in the Kreskin ESP set. Kreskin is now in his 80s, so he's an older guy. The problem with Kreskin was we got more complaints from our audience about Kreskin's show because what Kreskin likes to do, he likes to talk about when he was on the Mike Douglas show. Well, the Mike Douglas show was on 65 years ago. A lot of people in the audience, what's a Mike Douglas show? They don't know what he's... So Kreskin talks this much and performs this much. So after the show, his manager called me up. He said, "What'd you think?" And I said, "Well," he said, "would you have him back?" I said, "If he performs this much and if he reverses them, I'll have him back in a heartbeat." He says, "He's not changing the show." I said, "Well, I'm not having him back." So we never had Kreskin back again, but Kreskin also set the record for the furthest anyone traveled to see our show. But we've had people at this theater that have driven in or flown in from Ohio, from Virginia, from Boston, all over. People drive 5-6 hours because, again, there might be no magic theater closer. But a mentalist, Pablo Amira, flew in from, I think, Colombia in South America to see Kreskin.
Wow.
Well,
So he comes, and we had Kreskin for, I think, 2 shows, Friday and Saturday. So he sees the Friday show. I said, "Are you staying for Saturday?" He says, "No, I didn't get a ticket for Saturday." He said, "You're coming as my guest. How can you come this way and you're not going to see this?" So he stayed and saw the show again. But yeah, so someone came from South America because he said, "When am I ever going to get a chance to see Kreskin in such a small environment?" And I introduced him and they had a chance to sit down and talk a little bit.
it's one of those things, though. Even if you said it was awful and he was performing tomorrow night, as a magician, I'd want to see it. I'd want to see it while he's still around.
And not that he was awful. He wasn't awful. When he performed, he was spellbinding. Although the one night, he has a routine, is famous. He's going to find the check just by holding someone's arm. And he had trouble finding the check this night because it took 35 minutes. He eventually got it, but it took a while. When he performed, captivating. Oh my God. But it, like I said, too much talking about things that people really weren't interested in. Again, if the talking was more captivating, maybe, but so I have no qualm about saying that publicly.
Wow. So, do you think it would help if he had like video footage following that of showing him on the Mike Douglas show or something like that, or it's just too much? Just
Maybe. I mean, it's one of the things, unfortunately, in the magic business. You see it over and over again. Performers send you, are using headshots when they were 20 years ago or 10 years ago or whatever. You have to go with the times, I think. You have to be honest about who you are and what you are. And Kreskin probably needs to, when you're talking about something that happened 60 years ago, obviously a lot of your audience have no idea, what Mike Douglas show. It was a daytime talk show. I remember seeing him on the Mike Douglas show because I'm an older person, but a lot of people had no idea what he's talking about.
Yeah, I just feel like that could be re-scripted. I mean, he could say this one time when I was on television, this happened. And if
Correct.
he wants to say, I've been on the Tonight Show, I've been on this show, I've been on the Mike Douglas show, and you say that in passing later on, and that puts those two stories together without being boring,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. So what's coming up next for Danny Archer? Any new products coming out soon? You have
You know,
everybody
I,
goes.
I haven't put I haven't put a product out on the market in a while. I have something in mind. There's a trick that I do. Actually, it's a fun trick, and I have totally different presentations for the same trick. So I'm thinking about that. But I'll be honest with you. Selling magic to magicians is not my primary goal. And there was a time that it actually bothered me. Why are they buying my trick? Why aren't they just making up their own trick? And then finally, I was reading a novel. I'm a big reader, and I'm a big fan of Stephen King. And I remember putting down the book and thinking, man, he can really write. I wish I could write like that. And then I realized I can't. He has to write the book so I can read the book. I'm a reader, he's a writer. It's the same thing. Not everyone has the ability to make up a trick. I just figured I can do it, everybody can do it. No, everybody can't do it. Some guys maybe could do it and come up with a bad trick. But to come up with a really good trick, it's just not everybody's skill set. And then it made me feel better. Okay, I'm the reader here. He's the writer. But when it's the other way around, I'm the creator of the trick and other people can do it. So that made me feel a little bit better. But it's no longer. There was a time. One time I had like 20 some tricks on the market, and that was an important way of me paying my bills. I had a wife, I had kids, and stuff like that. But today, it's not that important to me. And again, it used to be. If you were going to market something, you had to prove to the company that was marketing that it was really good. Today, anyone could put out anything because we all have cameras and this. Lulu will print one book. You can write whatever. So the editorial process. So there's a lot of crappy stuff that comes out in the market. But so my goal is to make my own personal shows and performances better and do what I can to uplift the Smoke and Mirrors Magic Theater.
Well, I don't want to discourage Smoke and Mirrors Theater. I had an amazing time, but I was scared to death when I pulled in. Did you hear the gunshot story? Did you hear that?
The
The
what?
gunshot. Did you hear me tell Mike Miller about the gunshots?
Oh, yes. That story, yes.
Did you hear the end of it though? After we got home.
No.
So as we're leaving, we pull up to your theater, and we're going to camp out overnight. We don't know where to go. We don't know the area, and that's the thing with being a traveling magician. I don't know if I'm a good part of town, bad part of town. I don't know. But it's 11:30 at night. She's telling the kids good night, and I hear boom, 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 boom. I said, "Hold on, Natalie. I think I hear gunshots." She opens the door. She hears it. We got to get out of here. We run to Walmart because I figure I can park there, and I feel safer. At least it's lit and everything. And the security guard chases us out and says, "You can't park here." Shoot! He said, "But go back behind and I'll circle. I'm security. I'll circle. The cops watch and you can park back there." Great. As we lay our head down on the pillow, boom, 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 boom. My eyes get this big. And I'm like, "Natalie?" She said, "We can't run all night, Wes. Nobody cares. Nobody's after us. We'll be fine." "Okay, honey." My pulse is beating like crazy while I'm trying to sleep. We do your show. Everything's fantastic. I can't sing enough praises about you and Marty. The the hosting, the environment, everything about it, top notch. As we're leaving, I got a standing ovation, which was also funny. But I'm telling Natalie, "Hey, it was so great. We had a great time. I'm driving home." And then we see in the distance fireworks. Boom, 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 boom. I don't know, Danny.
Was it
There's-
gunshots or fireworks?
Is there a
afraid of-
Welcome to Faye. Yo.
What's going on? Is there a sporting event place nearby your place? What's the fireworks?
Not that I know of. We're in Huntington Valley. We're not actually in Philly. We're in a very safe environment, I think. So we'll just put it down to birds.
No, look. I mean, I'm telling you, there's a firework display on our way home.
Yeah.
So they said, 11 o'clock at night, maybe a sporting event was over, and that's what I was hearing.
Yeah, maybe the Phillies game. I know at the game they'll shoot off fireworks if the team wins or something like that. So it could have been that. It could have been Gremlins. Who knows what
That's
it is?
exactly.
Oh,
I'm just saying.
last thing I forgot to mention. Can I mention one thing real quick?
Yes, yes.
I forgot to mention that I am also the organizers of the Mindvention Mentalism Convention. There hasn't been an in-person Mindvention in a couple of years, but finally this year, Philadelphia, November 17, 18, 19. It's going to be happening right here in Philly. We've got a great lineup. Mindvention, MINDVENTION.net is our website. If you're interested in mentalism, whether you're a professional mentalism, a professional mentalist, or just interested in this most fascinating art, come by and check it out. It's 3 days of mentalism, and it's going to be an awesome time.
Where's it going to be held at?
It's at a hotel literally 3 miles up the street from where I'm sitting right here by the theater.
Wow. Can you mention?
It's a small convention. This is not Magiclife. We get about 150 people. It's a small convention, but the people that come are really interested in mentalism. And we got a great lineup. Rick Mao, Eric Samuels, Garrett Thomas. I can't even think of all the people right now off the top of my head, but it's going to be a fun time.
And you got Abbott's coming up very soon. Have you ever been to Abbott's before?
Yep. I have been to Abbott's once before. I didn't think they would ever invite me back because they were starting the close-up show, and there's 8 of us. And every time they introduce a guy, the audience claps, and it interferes with the other thing. And finally, I yelled out, "I'm Danny Archer. I'm starting my show." And I just started.
Wow.
Without for them to announce me, I said, "They're never having me back." But I guess they forgot about that.
Wow. But now you just reminded them.
Too late.
Too late. He's already booked. He's already booked. Danny, you're the best, man. One more thing. We have 5 minutes left. I want to know about your Italian character. I saw him at MAES. That was the first time I saw him. And then at the theater, you have pictures of yourself dressed up. Tell me about that guy.
Well, Gino Mozzarella is the name of the character, and Gino is like a tough guy from South Philly. So again, I'll make a long story short. I'm performing at the Magic Castle. I'm in the parlor, and it's Tuesday night or Wednesday night, so it's early in the week. And I go in to get, now this is back in the old days, when you would go in to get your meal, you just go into the kitchen and tell the chef what he wanted. He'd cook it and give it to you on a plate. Then they had a little room where you could sit down and eat. And I go into the room to eat, and the only person in the room is John Carney. John is in the palace, the big room, doing his show. Now, I assume that you've seen his character, Mr. Misto.
Yes.
His character. But did you ever see John do a character called Dr. X?
No.
At that time, he was playing with Dr. X. He was wearing a fez, and Dr. X was a mentalist that spoke with a German accent. Huh. And that's what he was performing in the palace. So we sit down to eat, and I said, "John, can I ask you something?" He says, "Yeah." I said, "What's up with I saw Misto. What's up with Dr. X?" And as we're eating, Carney explains to me the benefits of having a performing character, or more than one performing character, of which there were many benefits. So I'm staying with Gregory Wilson, who lives about a 50-minute drive from the castle. The whole way back, I normally audio record my shows, and I would listen to them on the way back. I don't. On the way back, all I'm thinking about is John Carney, what he said. So we get back. Greg's awake. It's now 1:30 in the morning, whatever. It's late. He said, "How'd your shows go?" I said, "Forget that. Let me tell you what happened with Carney." So I related this conversation with Carney, and I said, "I think I want to try a character." And this is what happened. It was 3 minutes. So Greg says, "Okay." He says, "The best characters come from within." He said, "Jack Benny was maybe a little thrifty. He exaggerated it to be a cheap character." He said, "Where are you from? Where's your hometown?" I said, "Philly." He said, "Philly's a tough town. Maybe your character could be like a tough guy from Philly." And I said, "Okay." So I come up with the idea that tomorrow I rewrite my introduction. I'm going to be now introduced as Danny the Arrow Archer. Backstage, as the guy, and I only have the same tricks I'm doing as Danny. I don't have different costume, music, anything. I'm just going to talk different. Gino talks more like this. You know what I mean? He's one of these kind of guys. So backstage, I have a toothpick. As the guy's reading my intro, it's the same intro I used today. There's a joke in there. Magicians from all over the world, from the north, from the east. Rarely do you see a magician from the south. That's why we're thrilled to have all the way from South Philly, Gino, or Danny the Arrow Archer. I put the toothpick in my mouth. He gives my line. I come out through the thing. Big laughs just for the introduction. For at least like 30, 40 seconds. I'm not saying a word. Finally, I do the toothpick falls out a minute into the thing. I stumble through the rest of the show as Danny. I get back behind the curtain. People are leaving. There's a knock on the door. I said, yeah, who is it? Eric. It's Eric Buss. I open the door. I let him in. He says, Danny. He says, that was really funny. He says, how long you been doing that character? I said, about 20 minutes. I said, that was the first time I ever did it. He said, I would definitely keep going down that road. He says, there's something there. And that's how it started. So I finished the rest of my week. I was only doing the same tricks that Danny was doing. But now obviously I have different trick selection, music, costume, and the whole thing, and Gino. But Gino, it's good and it's bad. They would not book me at the Chicago Magic Lounge. I sent them my tape as Gino. They would not book me. So then I resubmit another tape as Danny. They booked me. It's the same tricks.
That's
But they did not like the Gino character. They thought maybe it was being disrespectful to Italians or something. So Gino, well, not everybody wants Gino for their gig.
yeah.
But there are some people that probably want Gino over Daniel.
Yes, and some people say, no, I don't want I want Gino. And so, to me, it's okay. It's potato.
So here's the thing with me finding tricks, like cups and balls. I don't have a reason Wes Iseli would do cups and balls instead of just saying, hey, when I was little, this is one of the first tricks. This is one of the oldest tricks. Let's get into it. But, if I had some...
That's the pattern, though. That's the pattern. Have you seen David Regal's version?
Yeah.
With the little ones, and then that's what Will did the other night. I have the props. I bought them. I just never put it together. But that's the pattern. When I was a little kid, I went to the magic shop, and then it comes full circle. Great routine.
But when you have a character, now you're thinking for that character and shopping magic for that character, and you can go down a whole nother...
Yeah, that's why the character, to me, when you're thinking about a trick, it's like panning for gold. Do you want the crap to fall through and only the good nuggets? Well, I know Gino would never do that. Nope, Gino would never. It's a trick with a knife? Yeah, Gino would do a trick with a knife. So it makes some tricks very easy to, come up with stuff that will work for the character.
Dude, I don't know your routine. I don't know Gino. I've seen him, but, like a card stab with a pocket knife. I mean, a switchblade. Now you have a reason to do a card stab. I saw this one day, and that's so awesome. What were some of the benefits that Carney highlighted? What were some of the benefits he highlighted about having a character? Do you remember?
Yes. Multiple products to sell to a single client. He says, so now I get a call from one of my corporate clients. I say, do you want the classic magic of John Carney, the comedy magic of Mr. Misto, or the mentalism of Dr. X? So he felt now that he would now have 3 things to sell, where before he's selling one thing, John Carney. Now feels he has 3 things. And again, as you said, trick selection. There's tricks that John Carney would never do, but Misto would do. So it allows you to play with some other material, maybe that you wouldn't want to do. There were a couple of other benefits as well, just as a stretch for your own performing powers, because really, even though someone says, oh, you're just, I don't have a character, I'm just myself. No, you do have a character, because the you that's at the supermarket doesn't do magic. If you're doing magic, it's a little different version of yourself, but it's not that much different. But a character can let you take that and really, push that those boundaries back a little bit further. Music is another thing. The music I used, Dean Martin, Frank Sinatra, Italian, violins, the Godfather theme, the song from Rocky. I mean, some of them are just too easy, but how could you not?
That's awesome. Danny, that's been an hour, man. So,
okay.
Smoke and Mirrors Theater, is it .com?
We are smokeandmirrorstheater.com, myinvention.net if you're interested in mentalism. And we used to broadcast our shows, but we're not doing that anymore. Maybe one day we'll put some of them back out again. But if you're in the area, stop by. We'd love to see you. Thank you, Wes and Natalie, for asking me to come on and spend some time with you and your people.
Oh yeah.
Say the name of the town again. It's Huntingdon.
Huntingdon, D-O-N, Huntingdon Valley. But you know what? If you put in our address, 2840 Pine Road, and put in Philadelphia, PA, Google will take you right there.
Oh, okay.
Now, as far as DannyArcher.com?
No, I don't have my own website up. When we started with the theater, because I use my own website to sell my show and sell my products. I just said I need to put all of my focus on the theater. So I still own the website, DannyArcher.com, but it is not active right now. GinoMozzarella.com there's not a lot of stuff up there, but Gino has a website.
And if people want the birthday banner or eye test or anything like that, can you get that from you?
They can contact me right through the Smoke and Mirrors website. Our email address is right there. Or my email is DannyArcherMagic@gmail.com.
You're the best. Thank you, Danny. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me.
This is one of the things I love about the podcast. We sat and had lunch together, but everybody's cross-talking. I got to know more about you. I love it so much. Thank you for being on. Only thing we have left to say is see you next week.
Check us out online at wesisley.com and patreon.com/Wes_Isley for behind-the-scenes videos, blooper videos, never-before-seen footage, discounts on merchandise, magic trick tutorials, and more. That's Wes Iseli, spelled WESISELI.